Okay, we've got a lot of news to get to here on this Wednesday, so let's dive into what's happening right now at the U.S. border. There are Border Patrol agents saying that this is war. They are being overrun, using the term broken arrow. We are at a broken arrow moment, and for those of you that know what that term means, it simply means we're overrun. We have to throw up our arms. It's surrender. It's when a unit is basically overrun. But we just had, and we're going to go down to Brownsville, Texas. We're also going to be in El Paso in just moments. Michael Yon is joining us. Nick Sorter is joining us. But right now we got some breaking news. Now this is coming from CBS News, so take this with a grain of salt. But CBS News claims they have internal documents from the White House because they are a mouthpiece of the White House. So perhaps this is true. We don't know yet. But and we're trying to digest this. So this is from CBS News. U.S. finalizes asylum restriction to ramp up border deportations once Title 42 lapses, which is going to happen tomorrow. So the Biden administration has finalized a sweeping restriction on asylum that it plans to use to ramp up swift deportations of migrants who cross the U.S.-Mexico border after the Title 42 pandemic emergency policy sunsets on Thursday.
These are all double negatives. It's hard to understand. So Title 42 allows the United States to deny entrance to migrants seeking asylum, and it was put in place during the COVID pandemic.
By Trump. Using CDC guidelines.
Right, in order to prevent mass migration. That is going to expire. It was set to expire months ago, and the Biden administration extended it. And now when it expires, so it is like we're talking in double negatives. They're thinking of ways to continue to put in place asylum. So when they're saying they're extending Title 42, it means they're going to continue to deny entrance.
So this is something else. I mean, and we're going to get some analysis on this here in a second, but hundreds of U.S. asylum officers, according to this from CBS News, were trained on how to enforce the restriction on Tuesday. And the regulation was published on Wednesday, less than 48 hours before Title 42 is set to expire. CBS News first reported the regulation's finalization on Tuesday, as well as the guidance issued to asylum's officers charged with implementing it. So, will this actually happen, and what does this mean? For more on that, we are going down to the border. I had a chance to speak with Michael Yon, who is in El Paso. He just arrived in El Paso. He just came from Panama, of course, at the Darien Gap. And then we're also going to be speaking to Nick Sorter, who just arrived in Brownsville, Texas. But first, let's go to Michael Yon in El Paso, Texas. Well, we're following the border crisis very closely. Of course, one day until Title 42 expires, and all hell has been breaking loose, not even just running up until Title 42 expires, but it's been happening for weeks and weeks and months. Michael Yon has been covering this. We had him on the show down in Panama just a few days ago at the Darien Gap, of course, where a lot of these migrants start their journey, or maybe midway through their journey on their way to the United States, loading up into buses. Well, now Michael is in Texas, right at the border, and he joins us from El Paso, Texas. Michael, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Clayton. Yeah, I'm in El Paso. I just got in from the Darien Gap. I got in at about midnight last night from Panama. And as you heard before, Secretary Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, has said that they will be closing down the Darien route, which is completely untrue. I got that whole area stitched up. Nobody can come through without me knowing each village as they come village by village. The numbers are actually continuing to increase. Now, as you know, Title 42 is about to drop, which, and as you've already mentioned, Clayton, it really, in a sense, doesn't even matter because it already doesn't exist. The border does not exist. For instance, in the Rio Grande Valley, which is on the other side of Texas, I'm on the El Paso side, which is next to the Arizona border. It's just completely wide open. There's almost no border patrol there whatsoever. And that's actually where SpaceX is. I've been to SpaceX many times, mostly for two reasons. One is I like SpaceX, and another is the border. And SpaceX is right on the border.
Right on the border. Now, you tweeted earlier that it's what a security concern, and you're worried about the people that work at SpaceX. It's right there. Describe what you're hearing about the concerns of the safety of the people that work there and what they're experiencing.
Well, the border is just wide open. And I mean, I can't even convey how accessible SpaceX is. I mean, it's like blows your mind to see it. It's like you can literally cross the river from Mexico and walk to SpaceX in 15 minutes. And I mean, be in space. People assume, I see people making comments on my Twitter this morning, they assume that SpaceX has high security. It does not. It's like about as secure as a Walmart, and that's not an exaggeration. That's
yeah,
you've
been able to walk up there and take photos of the rocket boosters and other things like that. What are you hearing from the Border Patrol? You have an extensive sourcing of Border Patrol agents, and you and I were texting over the past 24 hours. I mean, they're terrified. I mean, they're angry. They're terrified. What are they saying specifically about what powers they have right now to exercise?
Let me read this message. I just put it on Twitter from a Border Patrol source. This is from at the Rio Grande Valley, which again is that sector right by the Gulf of Mexico, and it's right at the mouth of the Rio Grande River as it goes into the Gulf, which is where SpaceX is. Border Patrol now, starting this morning, Rio Grande Valley, McAllen Station. All Border Patrol details are canceled. 90% of each shift must report to the staging area in McAllen. That's right at the border. This leaves only 5 agents on each shift Rio Grande to patrol 50 miles of river. They might as well raise the white flag. It's done. Everyone will get away, meaning the aliens. Aliens will come pouring over the border. I know you will be out there, so be careful. Go armed. Don't go alone. There will be literally no one out there to help you, and the cartels will take full advantage. Yeah, so, that's straight from border.
And I heard you, another Border Patrol agent you were sharing with me, sourcing on this, saying it's broken arrow. Broken arrow, for our audience that doesn't know what when a term broken arrow means in military parlance, means we're overrun, we've lost, we're basically waving the white flag of surrender. That's basically what these Border Patrol agents are telling you, no?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's truly, there is no border. Effectively, there is no border. And what I think we're going to see, based on my experience over the years of watching this, is we're going to see this initial surge. Well, it's already surging, but it's going to surge even harder tomorrow as Title 42 actually drops, right? And actually, another message, I don't know if I mentioned to you, but as the tents get full, Border Patrol told me this morning, they're just going to release everybody, right? And the tents are essentially full. I think we have 29,000 in custody right now. Could be 26,000. Anyway, it's a lot. And so now here's what I think will happen based on experience. We'll get this initial huge surge tomorrow, right? And then as those people come through, it probably be in the hundreds of thousands. Nobody really knows. Some estimates 700,000. That's probably reasonably accurate. I just don't know. And so experience also says we just don't know. But what we do know from experience is that you'll get this long flash to bang. So when Title 42 drops, we'll get the surge that comes across, and then there'll be it'll just get steady state. And now you'll get this huge next wave as they all come through Colombia and Darien Gap. That's why I spend so much time in Panama, because then I can tell, what the pulse is down there, because that's our big feeder. Now, much of Central America, like Guatemala, Honduras, is already dumped out. Not all of it, of course, but a huge amount of it's already dumped out to the United States. So what we've got coming up now are huge amounts from South America, like Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, just long list. Not to mention Africa feeds through South America, and huge amounts of Asians. For instance, we have a lot of Chinese that go through Quito, Ecuador first, and then they get on a bus. Sure, we've already talked about this. They come through the Darien Gap. And so, yeah, it's a big deal. We have no border, sir.
So no border. And I asked you off camera, I said, what's next? I mean, when they wave the white flag of surrender, what's next? And you sent me one word answer. And that answer was war. War. And that's what we're facing now, unless the Biden administration does something. I mean, do you see any other way out of this?
No, I don't see a painless way out, or even a marginally This is outright war. And this is a weaponized migration. It's an old strategy that's been used for centuries. It's very effective. Basically, just flood another country with your operatives and then take it over. I mean, you can arm them once they're here, right? Which is already happening. I'm getting credible reports Some are actually making reports for me as they go to ranges and check out who's at the. The 9/11. By the way, there's a great book called Looming Tower about the 9/11 hijackers. Right.
Yes. Yes.
Of course,
yes.
there's a lot of controversy about CIA and whatnot, but we know that they came to the United States and they trained on flight simulators, and they actually went to gun ranges and that sort of thing in the United States. They trained for their attack in the United States, right? We see that happening now. It's crystal clear.
So you're seeing this at gun. So tell me about these sources and these gun ranges. You're saying you're seeing that there's reports of different gun ranges, and what are they seeing?
Oh, for instance, people that don't speak any English whatsoever, all tatted up, total gangster-looking guys. That are clearly fresh off the boat. And also, for instance, yesterday at a range in Florida, a bunch of this is an incredibly good source, mainland Chinese people speaking Mandarin. He actually spoke with them. They didn't speak much English, but one of them already had a concealed carry permit in Florida. I mean, this was this is interesting. You remember China Ninja that we talked about last time, who he tried to get to Florida on the boat. He got intercepted by the U.S. Coast Guard on March 8th. I intercepted him in the Darien Gap about a month ago, and he was trying to get. This guy is clearly like straight up. I mean, if he's not a spy, I would be just amazingly surprised, right? And it doesn't mean he's a great spy. Remember, a lot of these low-level people, these low-level paramilitaries are mass-produced. You can't mass-produce the 007 types, right? But you can mass-produce a lot of the paramilitaries. And clearly we have a lot of those coming in. It's really obvious. You see the Chinese coming through the Darien Gap, for instance. They're usually coming in 5 to 10-man groups. By the way, most of the people that are coming across the border are military-age males from all countries, right?
Right.
It's just this is a clear weaponized migration. They clearly will be armed later. This is how this goes. Now, people can say this is conspiracy theory, but I feel like an oncologist who's been treating cancer all my life, and I've been going to wars and conflicts around the world. I've seen this over and over and over. I know what's happening. This is an invasion. They're going to be armed. You're going to have to fight them.
Yeah, I mean, no one is more well-traveled and more seasoned in this coverage than you, former Green Beret investigative journalist, Michael Yon. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're heading to the border right now. As we get out of here, you're in the hotel there in El Paso. You're heading to the border. Send us updates if you will, and we will be sharing them on the show. Michael, be safe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Clayton. I'll send updates from the border.
Well, now we want to turn to Brownsville, Texas, and that's where we find independent journalist Nick Sorter, who's been on the ground, just got there about 24 hours ago, I think, in Brownsville. And just from reading your tweets, Nick, you're saying it's worse than you even imagined. And I know you were out on the street trying to get a cell connection for us to do this interview, but the cellular networks are just inundated with people using the cell network, so you can't even get online, can't even post a tweet, can't even make a phone call or even do a call. So you had to come back and find Wi-Fi in order to. It's almost like it's just been the networks have been totally overrun by people. Am I right?
Right, absolutely. It was shocking because I would see on my phone that I would have even 5G. But none of that was working at all. Like you said, I couldn't tweet, even a text tweet. I couldn't even get phone calls out a lot of times, which is crazy. So I don't know exactly, is there something going on behind the scenes? Does the government, are they the ones that are burning up the network? For whatever reason, I don't know.
Or is it just
I think
overrun
it is
like when you, or is it just overrun like when you go to a some sort of a sporting event and everyone's in the stadium and no one can send a text message because everyone's on the network? And with the amount of people that you're seeing on the streets, does that look like it's the case? Is it just been overwhelming? Like, just paint a picture for us when you arrived. What did you see?
So the first thing that I noticed is that Texas, the state of Texas, has a lot more resources down there than it seems Customs and Border Patrol does, which was very shocking to me, actually. I have pictures that I'll tweet here in a little bit that actually show 100 vehicles, 100 Texas, game wardens and DPS and such that are all convening in one area. There's a staging area where basically I spoke with an elected official here who doesn't want to be named, but he was telling me that they're building a staging area because all of these migrants are going to come through the Rio Grande, and they know that, and so they're going to try to corral them into one spot, a state park, and they're expecting it to be really bad starting on Thursday night, obviously.
Right. So
and they said they don't feel even close to being prepared.
So Title 42, of course, expires on the 11th, tomorrow. What are you hearing from officials, law enforcement officials? Have you spoken to any of them, Border Patrol or otherwise, concerns? Because we're hearing reports that they're just basically waving the white flag, saying at this point we're going to be overrun. We don't have any support. We don't have any additional manpower to stop this.
No, you're 100% right. And a lot of these guys they're very professional in what they do. They take their jobs very seriously. So they won't necessarily say too much to you. Definitely not on the record. But what they will say, and you can tell just by their demeanor that they are super frustrated because they don't have that support. They don't have any. The federal government has pretty much abandoned these guys out here, and they're scapegoating them and blaming them for the fact that immigration is just totally out of control. And the morale seems to be quite low with these guys. And I mean, they're true heroes. They put their lives on the line every single day, and they're just getting crapped on by their own president.
So this staging area, what do they hope to accomplish with? What is the staging area going to encompass? What is it? What is the means? The people will come there, they'll be processed and just released, or what's going to happen at this staging area?
Exactly. So what this particular elected official had told me is that they are going to, once they do bring in a lot of people, and they're expecting, they're set up for 5,000 a day just in that area. That doesn't include anywhere else on the border. That's just in Brownsville, and they're expecting to have to release these people. And that's another thing that they're so frustrated with. They're almost like, why are we doing this? Because, we're catching and releasing them, and we have no idea where they're going. The vast majority will never show back up in court, willingly anyway. So they almost feel like it's just a total waste. But, even with this setup that they've been working hard on this past week, really, they still don't think that it's going to be nearly enough.
So, yeah, it's not going to be enough. They don't have the staffing. They don't have, we're getting reports, 5 agents meant to handle over 50 miles of territory. How are 5 people going to stop 50 miles of territory? What are you seeing on the streets just among the migrants? Venezuelan migrants, Guatemalan migrants, Mexican migrants. Are you seeing Chinese migrants? What are you seeing as you walk the streets?
So I have not seen any Chinese migrants just yet. But like you said, I did get here about 24 hours ago. And a lot of that, what I was doing in that 24-hour period was going around trying to locate specific areas and some vulnerabilities in the fence. There's actually part of it where you can see the unfinished border wall that they stopped construction on. That would have solved a lot of these issues here in Brownsville. And that's another frustration among these local. This elected official is a Democrat, by the way.
Really? The elected official you're talking about, yeah. And it's wide open. That section, that video that you were sharing is just wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nobody there guarding it. I mean, and he's the one that brought me to that location, and said, you're just going to want to see this. Said wide open. It's so frustrating, Clayton. I just can't even.
So in the next 24 hours,
and
you're expressing a lot of the frustration that we've been hearing from these Border Patrol agents and these officials down there who just feel hung out to dry. What are they preparing for as it relates to Title 42? Because so a lot of the reports that I've been hearing is a lot of these migrants don't even know anything about Title 42.
Well, it may not necessarily be the migrants that know anything about Title 42. We're talking about the coyotes and the smugglers and human traffickers and those who are paid in order to get people into the United States, they're the ones that know this. Because if you recall, they're all going in these massive caravans, right? And so there's sort of like a herd, for lack of a better term, where they just kind of follow each other. And that's how they end up here. So it doesn't take everybody to know about the ending of Title 42 and what that means for illegal migration in order to see that massive influx.
And where are these migrants staying right now? Are they just on the streets in tents, sort of tents propped up in alleyways? Or what about some of the homeless shelters and the processing facilities? I've seen certain reports of over 150% capacity and more than that.
Yeah, so this is true. Yes, so you do see, I know this is especially a problem in El Paso, where they're building tent cities now. To try to house all of these people. And what's going on right now is they're planning for these staging areas. That's another thing they have to do, is because, if they can't immediately process everybody. If they actually want to process people, it's going to take a day or two, in order to get all these people through. And so they're expecting to have to house a lot of them in tents in these staging areas, and there will be multiples of them. There was yesterday, I don't know if you saw this from Bill Malugin, there was actual drone video of this massive caravan. You almost couldn't even see the end of it in Brownsville, and that happened last night after I had gone back to the hotel. So I'm going to try to track some of those people down tonight. I would really love to know where they went, because there are so many people.
Well, Nick, thank you for joining us. We'll check back with you. Obviously, Title 42 expiring tomorrow. You're going to be hitting the streets again. I know you've been there just a short amount of time, seeing what's unfolding there. And you're right there, I don't even want to say it's a calm before the storm, because you're in the storm right now. You're in the thick of the storm right now. So stay safe. We'll check back with you tomorrow here on the show. Thank you so much for what you're doing down there and bringing us the real story.
Yeah, thank you, Clayton. Take care.
And thanks to Nick. And, it's interesting because we were talking about the cell coverage, and then we had another report this afternoon that a lot of the illegal immigrants are being handed cell phones. And so wondering, why all the trouble with the cell network? Well, here's one migrant who says this is the cell phone that they're handed to. They're given from the United States government. This is a new cell phone. Here it is. You'll see him opening it up. And it's an ICE phone he's given this phone, and that's a regular occurrence, according to this journalist who's been on the streets there. And this is just one of the phones that they're given with a number on the back. And and you wonder why, everyone is like inundating the cell network. There also Bill Malugin just posting this video just a few minutes ago of the Texas National Guard showing up here and in full riot gear in preparation of this. If we want to prevent a war, which is of course what we want, close the border, close it. This should have happened a long time ago. We've been covering this story on this show for over a year now. We've had guests all over the past 12 months talking about this right here on the show. Why is this news? Remember, we covered it when President Biden went down there and did his little tour in the parking lot and didn't even go to the border walls. We covered that here on the show. Totally ignored the actual problem. Didn't even speak to the Border Patrol agents to hear their frustrations at all. Once President left, a bunch of Border Patrol agents were didn't even address the problem. The staffing shortages, being overrun and not getting support. Also,
I've paid taxes in this country for 35 years, and I've never gotten a phone. I've never even gotten so much as anything.
You never got an Obama phone? You're giving out Obama phones big time.
Giving them money. Nothing.
So also, one more piece of this that I want to get to is, what is the mood on the street? Because now that this sort of CBS News update about what President Biden intends to do with the Title 42 expiration, as we reported at the top of this segment, and as Michael Yan is there reporting, he just sent me a text saying, they're trying to wrap their heads around this because it's all mind games. He's like, because the law enforcement are being told one thing, which is to totally discount their immigration status if any kind of crime is committed. Listen to this report. This is a journalist who's been on the streets there in El Paso. Listen to this.
But it's funny they have
Now he's sort of painting a picture of these old neighborhoods here in El Paso. So for the first 30 seconds or so, he's explaining these neighborhoods and a lot of the people that are in their 60s.
This is a historic district.
There are a lot of people that are in their 60s and 70s who are sort of being pushed out of this neighborhood, and he's sort of explaining what's happening on the streets here, and he's trying to get them to get an interview with some of the people who've been here for a long time. And so anyway, I just wanted to provide some context here, and here's where he starts to explain exactly what the law enforcement officials are being told.
Tuberculosis, chickenpox, and other diseases and viruses that are being brought in by these people. They're scared for their life, and I'm actually going to take you guys over there to try to see if I can get you guys an interview with them, so you can get first-hand look into what real El Paso citizens that are actually living this will be able to tell you guys how they feel and the stuff that they've been able to document for us. Because police get called consistently by these people, but because there's no way of proving their citizenship, they basically don't report it. Police down here in El Paso have been warned not to disclose immigration status on any crime committed, and this is by higher up in the El Paso Police Department, and I quote, they told them heads will roll if this gets out to the media. They're being threatened by getting fired by the police department if they mention immigration status as far as any crimes being committed here in the city.
I mean, if I were one of those immigrants, I would not take that phone. Be like, oh no, I've heard of Edward Snowden.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't want that.
Thanks, ICE, for your ICE phone.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to be tracking me?
That was the first thought I had when they were unwrapping that phone. I was like, oh, a tracker. Very nice. Very nice.
And they'll be able to know exactly where they're going, and if they're going to corral them, as Nick was just reporting there in Brownsville in this state park area for some sort of fast processing or whatever, or to be released. It's unclear. But if the Biden administration is, according to CBS News, going to be fast tracking the deportation process, like, we will see. Like, it's very easy to track that. It's very easy to track that. So all of these centers are being completely overrun. Border Patrol agents are like, we're throwing up our hands. And I saw a lot of people saying, no, Broken Arrow has to do with a lost nuclear weapon. That's not the case. That's one definition use of it. But in Vietnam, it was used to describe being overrun, and we need air support. We are going to be decimated. Please send in air support or we will be destroyed. And that's exactly what Border Patrol agents are telling us.
They're in the weeds. They're
in the weeds. We are at 150% capacity, and we do not have the manpower to do it. So what will the Biden administration do? This is an invasion of the United States. And we are going to be watching this very closely in the coming days to see what happens with this Title 42 tomorrow.
And did they tell you more about these recruitment programs, though? Like, why are people thinking that they're heading towards a better life? Why would they want this?
Well, if their country is totally destabilized and they're being rounded up by coyotes and the drug cartels, and they're being shipped off and making a lot of money and making $4,000, $3,000, $2,000 per person to drive them up the coast and drive them into these territories, and if these gangs are recruiting a lot of these, because as Michael Yan reported, a lot of these are military-aged men.
Yes, but the families that are coming, and for instance, the whistleblower we had recently that was speaking about these human trafficking programs said that there are recruitment in home country by the U.S. government, and the U.S. government is acting as a middleman in child trafficking from these Latin American countries. So again,
and that whistleblower testified before Congress.
She did, yes. And we played it for you here. So a pertinent question that I think it's worth looking into, so that we don't want to dehumanize anybody. Why would they be coming here? What are they being told? Who is behind it? What is the push? Because clearly there is also a pull. This is a lingering question. So we welcome your comments on this as well.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.